Hi, so today in MakeCode Arcade, let's take a look at how we can make an enemy shoot depending on where you are relative to the enemy. So if you are on the enemy's left, he'll shoot left, and if you are on the enemy's right, he'll shoot right. Okay, so how do we make this happen? Let's create a new project so we can get started with this, right? Okay, so I'm going to create my sprite and I'm going to move him with buttons and I'm going to create my enemy. So let's choose this guy of kind enemy, and we'll build a generic tile map, and we'll also mark these walls, right? And now we'll place our enemy on a different place, but before that let me get the camera to follow my sprite. Okay, so now you see that the camera follows my player, but you see they both spawn in the exact same location when the game starts. So let's place our enemy on a different place in our tile map. Let's say column number 12 and row number 9. All set. Okay, so now you have the enemy there. Okay, now how is the enemy going to shoot? What we are going to do is we're going to calculate the gap on the sides between our enemy and the player. So you see there's a gap between our player and the enemy right now, and the gap is between the player's right hand side and the enemy's left hand side. So, and this side is the gap between the player's left hand side and the enemy's right hand side. So we will calculate two gaps, which is the left gap and the right gap. So let's do this every 500 milliseconds so that the enemy will shoot every 500 milliseconds. So it's not a constant beam of projectiles there. So let's create a variable called gap left, and I'm going to calculate the distance, right? So I'm going to calculate the distance between the left side of my enemy and the right side of our player or my sprite. Similarly, I'm going to create a new variable called gap right. So this is the distance between my player's left side and my enemy's right side. Let's take a look at that again. So as you can see, gap left is calculating the distance between the left of my enemy and the right of my player, and gap right is calculating the distance between left of my player and the right of my enemy. Okay, now let's say if the gap left is greater than or equal to 0 and less than equal to 50, so that it's a range between 0 and 50, then we can shoot a projectile to the left. So let's get an AND operator first, and the next thing we'll do is we'll get these comparison operators again. So first thing we want to check if gap left is greater than equal to 0, and we want to check if gap right is less than equal to 50. Then what we'll do is we'll shoot a projectile from my enemy, and it can be anything generic. Let's say an asteroid. He shoots asteroids, right? So I'll change the Vy to 0, and remember we're calculating the gap left, so we want the projectile to also go left. Okay, and then similarly, if the gap right is greater than 0 and less than 50, then we'll calculate the Vx to be positive so that he shoots right. Let's see. So now you see he'll shoot it to the right, and Depending on where I am, that's where he'll shoot. Now you can do more things, right? Let's say we'll give our enemy a velocity, and we'll also set him to bounce on ball. So let's see what happens now. My enemy should bounce on ball. Now he's going to bounce around and he's going to shoot in random directions. So right now the projectiles are too slow, which is why it looks like it's it's shooting the player, it's enemy itself instead of the player. So what we can do is we can increase the velocity. So let's make it -100 for the left cap and +100 for the right cap. Okay, so now you have a pretty interesting behavior for the enemy. Right, try that out and let me know how you get on.